Hi, guys. Welcome to the Mai and John podcast. We are your hosts, Mai, and yours truly, John. I hope you all are having a great day today, and welcome to episode 3.
Yes. Sorry, we're a little bit pooped today. Well, I know you are, right?
A little bit.
We came back from a really hardcore workout, so
Yeah, and that's 3 days in a row.
yeah, so my brains is still like
Still jogging right now. Yeah. I had to bring my rag because I didn't want the light to be, the spotlight to be at the top of my head so much, but
yeah.
It is what it is.
I almost wanted to say, okay, let's just skip this week, but we are committed
Yes.
to doing this weekly.
Yes.
So here we are.
Yeah.
So last time we talked about entrepreneurship, and we said that was part 1.
Yeah, we
right?
did a little bit of our sort of our origin stories of how we were exposed to, and a little bit about how you got into or your first experience in entrepreneurship after university and stuff like that. And we talked a little bit about my exposure, my parents' business, and then we got sort of cut off by time.
Yeah. So up to, I think we can continue today on more about maybe your story into, we kind of hear how you got a taste from your family, from uncle and your dad, but how did you get started?
So my story is similar. I guess we both had a similar first experience as entrepreneurs. Mine starts, I think it was about summer of 2006. I remember I had just come back from a cool trip. I'd done some traveling with my best friend, and we went to like Machu Picchu and stuff like that. We did this crazy hike, and I remember coming back and being like, man, this is kind of it. I was in my mid-20s, and I was like, it's probably time. I had some fun. I did, some traveling around the world and stuff like that, or sort of around parts of the world. And I said, this is my time to really start focusing on my career. And I made it a goal that I would start to take things very seriously, because I was, working. I had a bunch of different jobs. I was the last job I had was I was a bartender and a waiter at Stage West, and then when I came back, I said, I'll start to look for jobs in the classified newspapers and stuff like that, because online wasn't that big at the time. I think we had like Monster Recruiting or something like that. It was like one of those websites that you can find jobs. And but I do remember specifically looking in the paper and finding this very interesting ad for a. It just basically said, "Are you good? Are you good with people? And are you do you like trade shows and things like that?" And I thought I would call, so I called, and I spoke with the receptionist, and she booked me in for an interview. And I went into my first interview with our still lifelong friend, Donette, who you know very well. And I remember she was the manager at the office at the time, and she had these bright eyes and this like glaring look that you couldn't look away, and she knew how to engage very well, and she had this great smile that was just like, wow, this seems like an interesting place to work. And they just talked about doing marketing and sales and what have you, and then they booked me in for a second in-person interview. I thought everything went well. I was dressed to the nines. I had like a custom 3-piece suit on and stuff like that, and I came into the second interview with and I remember seeing the person who was an assistant manager at the time interview me, who is also a lifelong friend, Kyle. Shout out to Kyle Barsley. And I looked at him, and I always make fun of him and I remember looking at him and just being like, wow, this kid who's like, he looks like he was dressed in his father's suit because his suit was like two sizes too big. And he was just really young, blue-eyed kid. And I looked at him and I was just like, wow, this is the assistant manager in the office. And I was just like, if this guy's the assistant manager, I'm going to work through this, I'm going to climb the ranks like, like it's nothing. So I went on to a second interview and I had no idea what to expect because they were very vague with the interview. And next thing you know, we drive out to this neighborhood in Don Mills and Eglinton area. And he's just like, okay, here we go. And he's just like, I hope you brought an umbrella because it was raining that day. And I was just like, I was thinking the whole time, I was like, well, are we going to like some sort of trade show? Like, what's going on here? Why are we stopped in the middle of this neighborhood? And we walked up to the door and he just started knocking. And then he did his pitch of like, hey, my name is Kyle. And, we're here on behalf of Rogers. And that was kind of my second interview. And I remember going through and I don't know what it was because he did not make a single sale that day. And I was definitely not wanting nor expecting to go on any type of, door-to-door sales type of job. But something was there at the end. And I think it was really just, the sort of the mystery of, let's see what we can do, because I had never tested myself on a business level and a professional level. And for this guy who was, even though he was young, he was a cool guy, very sharp, silver-tongued guy. For him to be there, he said and did just enough for me to come back. And the sort of the journey through building your way up through that business was, there were several levels. You start off as a sales rep, and then once you can maintain a certain amount of sales, on a daily basis and a weekly basis, you move up to a leadership role. Mm-hmm. And that leadership role is it's a mental battle, to say the least. You have 3 days of training, and I remember going on training with a couple of these very petite young ladies who would they would knock on the door and they would literally stick their foot in the middle of the door so that people could not slam the door on them. And they somehow would turn these angry homeowners into sales. And I was just like, after training, I was like, I don't know how they did that. But that's definitely not something I can do. So I went on this big roller coaster of emotions because I was, after my interview, I'm flying, saying that I can climb the ranks. And then after my training, I'm just like, it's not something I can do. So I stuck with it. And it was, as I mentioned, it's a mental battle because you're going out there every single day and they drop you off at, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. You have one lunch break and they pick you up at 8 p.m. And for 9-10 hours a day, you are literally you've got 100 houses and you're knocking on all those doors 2 or 3 times in a single day, and you do that 5 to 6 days a week. So it was definitely a lot of mental toughness. But if you are tough enough to get through that and you're able to kind of overcome that, and you work your law of averages where you're doing sales, you can make it to a leadership role. And then when you get to a leadership role, that's kind of where the story or where the fun starts to begin, because you show that you can make some money. Because, like Maya had mentioned last time, it is 100% commission. So if you don't make any sales, you don't make any money. If you make 100 sales, then you make money off those 100 sales. Mm-hmm. So it's all based on your efforts. Mm-hmm. And but then when you get to a leadership role, it becomes very interesting because now the game changes. You become a person who can now teach and train other new recruits into the business. And your job now is to recruit other people. And it becomes a different type of sales where you're selling people on the business of doing door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
And
kind of sounds almost like network marketing for direct sales if you think about it.
Yeah, direct sales, direct marketing, network marketing. Yeah, definitely very similar. The only difference I think is that you're recruiting off the street rather than in network
Family and
marketing.
friends.
You're just recruiting family and friends. Yeah, which was the thing that I liked about it, because I definitely don't like to rely on friends and family to make sales and stuff like that. But once you get into a leadership role and you can build a team of people, then the next level is team leadership.
Yeah.
And team leadership is now you've got a little team around you. And I remember I want to shout out to my friend Baljinder J. Jinder Singh, who was my sort of running mate in the office. He pushed me. He was like the cool guy in the office, had cool hair, he had a cool car, lived downtown, and he was like, everybody wanted to be around him. He was like the atmosphere guy, and he definitely, I think if he wasn't in the office, I wouldn't have stuck around as long as I did. We had this sort of camaraderie, and we had this sort of respect for each other, where we just it was just a race to see who was better. And at team leadership, you got to start thinking about things like your team. You got to think about things like your team name. And I was not really good at those things. My specialty was more of making atmosphere around the office and
You're
being
a joker.
friendly. I was the joker around the office. And so people also had fun, but I was not cool like Jay. And I remember Jay specifically, he came up with the coolest team name. And when he came up with this team name, which was MPR, things really started to sort of shift in his direction, and everybody started to really kind of gravitate towards Jay. And Jay's team name was MPR, which stood for money, power, respect. And if you remember back in the day, the Locks and Lil' Kim had this money, power, respect song, which was for the business that we were in, was the coolest thing.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I actually don't remember his team name at all, but you guys moved into a different office after. But you did want, based on your story, which I've already heard before, of course, and I know the story being on the journey with you. And that's actually where, I came in, I guess, a few months after you, right? Yeah. And that's how we met as well.
6 months later. Yeah.
Yes. But it reminded me how key culture is, right? Because technically none of us wanted to do door to door. If you ask all of us, no one wanted to do door to door, right? Yeah. But we stuck around. Yeah. First of all of us were young. A lot of us were single. We were stuck around for the fun atmosphere. And the fact that you can get an opportunity there, and it doesn't matter that it's not about if you have that position, then I can't. It wasn't like that. It was all about we can all be business owners, right? As long as the team is growing, all of us. So we see that we're rooting for each other. We're competitive to see who gets there first, but we're rooting for each other. We want each other to exceed, which I feel is very different from corporate. And that's why we last there. For me, I had an experience in corporate, and I felt like it was just kind of like this thing that narrows. Yeah. But here, it's you all are given an equal opportunity. But what kept us motivated was that culture, the fun, just the opportunity to not just be your own boss on your own, because it can be lonely. Yeah. That's a selling point, I think, for a lot of companies that are in network marketing, is it's kind of lonely. I know how it is when you build your own business and you're just by yourself.
Absolutely.
You feel lonely, right? You're carrying everything. But when you're in this type of atmosphere, you feel like there's other people and you're able to grow together, and you are going through the same journey, so you understand each other. So I just kind of thought about that, and I said, that's why I guess in these type of entrepreneurship, when you are able to build culture, you build team, and you allow people to feel like there's opportunities, people stick around. Versus versus just kind of like that competition where it's just like that we have one role,
Yeah.
right?
And you're in sometimes in corporate you end up sitting there in the same position and making the same amount of money and working in the same office or the same cubicle. And I'm not saying that's every case, but a lot of times you hear about stories about people who just kind of like they sit there and do, like my mom, who worked at the same company for 33 years and basically worked in the same sort of office for her whole entire career. And there's no sort of, you kind of hit this plateau where there's no opportunity to kind of move up unless somebody leaves or passes away, and it's that was kind of the thought of that was scary to me, to working into
I see.
to work in corporate.
Because you saw two sides. You saw your mom, even though she seemed comfortable. Was she not happy there?
No, she hated going to work. She was like, oh man, I remember days where she was always the last one to the office, but she stuck around and she was always the last one in the office. But you could see she dreaded going into work, but she was disciplined mentally enough that she showed up every single day until they got to the point where okay, it's more worth it for us to give you a package to leave rather than paying you to stick around, And she was very good at her job, don't get me wrong, but she just got to the point where you could see that it's easier for the company to hire two people who are younger and hungrier, that they could pay her one salary to two people rather than just one of her.
Yeah, you know what? I never really asked either how my mom enjoyed, but see, my mom's a teacher, and so I find that there's a little bit more fulfillment. It's not so much corporate, and she loves working with children. Yeah. And so in that aspect, I never saw her hating her job, actually. I always see that she's been a teacher since she graduated from university. She was a teacher in Vietnam, and then she came here, she became a Vietnamese teacher. So I didn't see that side of corporate. So I was very excited to get into corporate until I myself find that out. But it's interesting that I wonder if it has anything to do with the way our parents raised us, that we are, we kind of scared and shy away from corporate, or it's just in our nature. I'm curious. What do you think?
I think our sort of rebellious nature, with having people you have a problem with me telling you what to do, and I have a problem with you telling me what to do. How much more if it's a complete, not stranger, but if it's a boss. I always had an issue with authority and things like that. And I mean, luckily in my young adolescent years, I didn't get into. I got into a lot of trouble, but I didn't get caught doing a lot of those things. I got away with a lot of stuff, so thankfully that I was able to get away because.
Yeah, I guess so. That's right. I am very rebellious at heart, and I guess my mom kind of loved me for who I am, and she never really kind of stopped that. She wasn't so strict at all. I would think my parents were very strict, and so in a sense they kind of allow me to be who I am. And I feel like I do have a challenge with authority or people telling me what to do without reason why, or I need to ask, you have to explain yourself, why is this better than that? And I think sometimes in certain situation, it's basically, no, you just do it. Stop asking because it takes too much time.
Well, I think a lot of what comes into play is our ego. And, and I can see that in our children because they're more or less the same, where it's we tell them to do something or we tell them not to do something, and they'll do the exact opposite. Not because they're I can't even explain why we would do that or they would do that, but it was just more of they just want to do the opposite of what they're being told, just to kind of test.
They're pushing their boundaries and limits, but they also want to see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do set them straight, they will listen. But I know we talked about this the other day. Is that if we feel like if we use our authoritative figure and voice, and if we yell constantly enough and we discipline them constantly enough, they will listen. But there's a side of us that don't want that. That's the scary part, because we know that based on what I've learned and read is that how they are in the first, 7-8 years is so key. And if they learn those, mindset where listen to everyone else, everyone, like your parents, your teacher, then they grow up listening to everyone else.
I think for me it's like there is we're sort of exploring as parents, because I really don't know what the answer is, but at the end of the day I want my children to be well behaved, if you will. But I don't really think that it's healthy in the long run for them to be obedient all the time. I think there's obviously a time and a place. But I don't want them to just be obedient. I want them to learn to be leaders. And, and if they're to be any type of people that, if they grow to be people who can sort of make a difference, change the world, if you will, then they're going to have to think outside the box a little bit. They're going to have to test their, their limits and their boundaries a little bit. And they're going to have to kind of do things different from society, in the way what society tells them to do. So it's like, it's definitely...
They have to be able to think critically on their own, and be able to challenge, I guess, what's being told to them, right? Otherwise, they'll just... I mean, that is the challenge. Teaching them to be independent, to have their own voice, yet at the same time, at certain times, listen to mom and dad, because we don't have time. We got to be here at a certain time. We got to do this. We got to do that. So that's the challenge. But I think that's a challenge that you and I were willing to work through. They're difficult moments. For example, like we just went on a trip, our snowboarding trip to Blue Mountain, and our children have their own minds, so they want things to be done a certain way, or they're complaining that, oh, you know what, this is too much, I'm tired, maybe we don't do this. And it was really easy for us to just kind of say, you know what, so we had two options. Either we say, you know what, we give up, or listen, you do what I'm telling you to do, like no question about it. Right? And somehow I feel like we figure out a balance where we're able to allow them to kind of let out their emotions, their frustrations, and then kind of talk them into how fun it would be, and then get them on the hill. And then eventually they saw how fun it would be, and they make their own decision.
Yeah, well, the challenge, I guess, that we have with the two of them is that, I mean, on one end, Tyson is very methodical. He's he thinks things, he sees the beginning and he sees what he thinks or pictures as the end, and he's kind of like he sort of gets in his mind a little bit. He's very he overthinks. Whereas he overanalyze, and a lot of times he gets into that whole mentality of where he gets paralysis by analysis. And Abby, on the other hand, is just like, I mean, we strapped her snowboard on, and she's like, I want to go up there now. She would she goes down the bunny hill one time, and she's just like, now take me to the top. I want to go where everybody else is going, because this, I need to explore. Tyson's just like, I'm cool. I've taken lessons, and I'm cool with being here. I'm familiar with everything around me, and I'm comfortable here, so I'll just stay here. So it's tough because from a skill standpoint, Tyson knows how to kind of carve, and he knows how to stop, and he listens. Whereas Abby's just like, okay, point me forward and down, and let me go get there as quickly as possible. And if I gotta stop, then I'll just throw my hands up in the air, and I'll fall down and tumble down, because it's it's getting hurt is she's invincible, and
Yeah, I feel like then she would make a great entrepreneur. She's kind of like fearless, willing to take risks.
Yeah.
But who knows? Well, at the end of the day, it's not like we're pushing them to be one or the other.
No.
We want to support them. If they said, you know what, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a nurse, I want to, whatever life kind of like unfold for them, we want to support that. But I can't help but have a bias based on my own journey and what I feel would be, a great life is where you're not just working for the money, but you're working because you enjoy and you love what you're doing, and then the money is the bonus, and you're able to do the things that you love in life, right? So it comes down, for me anyway, is it's a challenging balance to be able to not think about money, because our whole entire life we're taught to always think about money. Like to even what business to run, what job we're gonna get, it's all around money, right? So I feel like that is still something I'm working on. Like there's a lot of money blocks, and I'm still working on the money blocks. Why I'm trying to teach my children not to have that limitations.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm curious because I think I've brought this up to you before, but you have this thing where you are, I guess, on the surface concerned about finances, and you want to make I think the thought of making money is very interesting for you, but yet and there's no right or wrong answer here, but yet a lot of the time that you spend is on things that are not based around money.
Yes.
Like right now, when business is a little bit slower, you've decided to take on a new podcast. You've decided to become, not only have you taken a course on I guess online marketing and online, I don't know, what would you consider? What do you consider this group, the Night Owl Nation, that you're part of?
Oh, yeah, it's a community of storytellers. There's a lot of online marketers on there, but basically it's a community of people who wants to improve the way that they share stories online and create content online.
So you've joined that group, but then you've also become a leader in that group, which also allows or consumes your free time, quite a bit. And then it seems like it's a lot of things that are not focused around finances.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think for me, in order for me to be able to put my head down and do the hard work for the money when I need to, I need to feel that I'm doing it for a purpose. And the purpose is that, so when I'm not busy doing that, I am able to dedicate my time to the things that I enjoy. I'm a creative person, so I enjoy telling stories. I remember when I was young, I loved to read. So one of my first gifts that my mom gave me was a book, and I was dying. Even before I could read, I was so curious what people are reading. And then after that, I had this whole entire library that I could literally start selling. And every day I would go around to my cousin and say, hey, you want to hear a story? I have this crazy story I need to tell you. I would tell everybody. and I just loved it. And so and then I enjoy writing in my journal. I was the only child, so I think there's a part of me that kind of outlet needs to constantly happen. I just don't know how to figure out like how do I make money from that. So I can be an author, now that I'm older, I can. But I mean, at the same time, there's the reality is that I still need to run whether it's a job or a business, I still need to run my business to be successful, to create income. But I feel like in the long run, the business that I run, that I would have my full heart in, is really a business around creating community, coaching, helping others, writing content, putting together workshops, maybe, writing books and things like that, and speaking. Those are the things that I would really kind of thrive at. And I guess I'm slowly working on that, why I'm basically working on the business that generate income. I find I jump into certain businesses like our property management, or in the past I had, marketing company, was because it came to me, so there was a need, there's a demand. And I see that it was so easy. There's a demand in the market. We ourselves know how to do it. We've done it so well. So why not kind of jump onto that opportunity and build a business? Because it's almost like money is being thrown at you. People are like, I will pay you, please, because I don't want to do this work. And you can see that the work is enjoyable enough for you to continue to do it. It's not my calling or anything like that. So I wouldn't say like, I never even thought I would run a property management company.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean? So who would have thought that? But the opportunity presented itself, and we saw an opportunity. There's a demand in the market. There's not a lot of people who are doing it where they're so flexible like we are. We're a boutique company. We're able to do hands-on. I mean, the first couple of houses that we managed, we did everything from communications online to being able to clean the house, to buy supplies, to check in on the clients, to even kick people out if we had to.
Landscaping.
We had to do landscaping. We did everything on a few properties, and because we knew all of it, we were able to then, people saw that we're willing to work very hard to deliver results. And so it continued, words get around, and now we get lots of referrals. So then we're like, oh, there's an opportunity to grow this into, a bigger business and train other people to take on certain roles that we were doing. So now we have a bigger team that's able to do that. So that's been very interesting. But I never thought. Like the whole time, I think when I was young, I just thought I want to be a business owner, but I had no idea what kind of business I want to run. I just think like whatever business can make good money.
Yeah. Yeah. You get into a service and you service your clients. And
I think a lot of entrepreneurs do that though, right? They just kind of start with a side hustle or something a skill that they kind of is good at. And then the client base grew, and as it grew, they can then decide, do I want to be the one working in my business or on my business? And if you enjoy the this type of service. So let's say you enjoy cooking so much, or you enjoy creating amazing new dishes. Maybe you can run a restaurant and still kind of be your partner in the restaurant, and you can still be the chef for it. But if food is not your thing,
I gotta disagree a little bit, because I see a ton of people. I see hundreds and thousands of people who they love to cook, and they can cook a meal for you, and they can cook a meal for me, and they can cook a meal for their family and 5 people and 10 people, and then they get into the restaurant business and they think that because you can cook some food, you can run a restaurant. And that is like, that's a big, it's a mistake. if you think that without realizing that there's a lot more to running a restaurant than just cooking food.
Yes, I agree. Sorry. So what I meant is that if that's your skill and you run that business, you should maybe sticking to what you're good at, which is creating the dishes, come up with a menu, but then you should get a partner or find the right person or people who can take over the other aspects of a business,
Yeah.
which is running the business.
Yeah.
So for me, when it comes to a business, I guess it doesn't have, I am really interested in the processes, like what create a business. And I want to find people who are skilled at the things that that business required. So if it's going to be a business that, let's say a landscaping business, I don't want to be the best landscaper, but I want to hire a landscaper and I want to create processes to market the company, get the sales, get the leads, get the client, hand it over to the landscaper and let the landscaper do their thing, take care of the accounting, all of that. So for me, I learned from starting a lot of these businesses that I enjoyed that aspect of like the overall project management, starting a business, but not necessarily the specific skill set, but I had to learn that. So if I'm gonna start a landscaping business in the beginning, I feel like I need to learn landscaping, but just enough to get a few clients, and then after that, I'm building my brand. I'm just gonna say, hey, let's hire a bunch of other landscaper. You guys do the work for me, because I'm not interested in being the best landscaper. I just want to create a business and figure out. I think that for me, that is the drive. That's the motivation. That's the thing, is creating something that you can put in the system and see it generates revenue.
You're like a what is that called? Like a GM of a sports team, like a Masai Ujiri for the Raptors, who you don't enjoy building a championship team, you don't enjoy, once you've built that championship team, it's like it's no longer fun for you. You like starting from the beginning and the recruiting and and putting pieces together and stuff like that, and you like the building part versus the
part where it just runs, like it plateaus out, right? Yeah, I think there's a thrill in seeing something created from nothing.
Yeah.
It's like there was nothing, I was able to create this, now it runs smooth, maybe it doesn't need me anymore.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because I feel like that's definitely you.
How about you?
I think you need to maybe get into more of consulting. For me, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I think at this point I'm playing more of I guess, I mean, I didn't get a chance to finish my other story, which I guess we'll get to another time. But I feel like I've been the boss, and as fulfilling as it is to get to that point of running successful or profitable, I should say, business, getting to that, once you get to that point, it is, entrepreneurship is very lonely. And after running my own marketing and sales company and running a restaurant and doing travel and running a travel business, I guess I got tired. I got tired of being the one making all the decisions, and I think that maybe this has been a little bit of a long hiatus, but I feel like I just needed a break from being the top person, because I was so sort of broken after those two experiences of running my sales company and running the restaurant, that I don't know. I don't know. I don't know now. Now I've got to figure out kind of what's next.
Yeah. I guess while we're still growing what we have now, you're still figuring out what would be the best. Well, this is where I think it's finding the time to reflect and being able to just kind of like spending more time
Yeah.
just to figure out what it is. I am curious what you feel. I feel like at the most of the time I'm always pushing you into these things. Okay, John, let's do this. Let's do this. And you're easy going and you're going with the flow, and so you're like,
Yeah,
okay,
I don't know.
let's
Like
do it.
I think that I've always had when I look for answers, it's always been I guess I'm trying to figure it out because now we're parents and we're married and we're we own properties, and there's always so much going on that I don't kind of get a chance to really just sit back in silence and allow myself some time. Maybe I need to like take like a spiritual journey on like a vacation where I go by myself, for a couple of days or whatever to be able to figure out the next answer. But
That's your
yeah.
excuse to going on a vacation?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you want me to be a successful, wealthy business owner, then I gotta go away somewhere to a beach that I can be by myself. Maybe Miami or something like that, where you can do some reflection.
Yeah, right. And then next thing you know, you're there, and I see your friends posting, "Oh yeah, we're here with John, guys." boys weekend.
Yeah.
There is no reflection then.
No.
It's all partying and drinking. Yeah. I mean, I can talk all day about entrepreneurship. There's so many nuances about it, and it's hard to think, whether we were born with that. I'm thinking it probably is both. We're born with certain natural things, and then we are nurtured in an environment that allow us to kind of find our ways and become more successful, right? I feel like your parents are so easygoing, so they're always supportive.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. During one of the Sunday service with one of my mentors, Sundet, he did talk that the thing about it is he believes that it's how we are nurtured. If you look at all the people who are successful, when they have parents or in a family environment that really supports them or nurture and it really helps them have a higher chance to succeed in life, right?
Yeah,
However,
I don't know. Like I
sorry, wait, let me finish. But however, what they choose to be successful at, that's where it's their innate ability, right? Now, we're talking about a higher chance to succeed. We're not saying that is a guaranteed.
Right.
And we're not saying people who, without the support of parents, are not going to succeed either. There's people who are defining any type of rules or any type of stereotypes, right? Defying all of that and are breaking all the rules. But I'm just saying in general, right? Sorry, but you said, were you going to give an example of,
Yeah, I
where
was going
it's
to say
not?
that I feel like you mentioned my parents were very, I mean, they are super easygoing. They're super easy to do anything with. They're kind of go with the flow, and I feel like that's definitely something that I learned and got from them. But at the same time, I'm not blaming them on my failures or defeats, but I always had it in, like when I was running my sales business, it was always in the back of my mind. I was always just like, well, if this doesn't work out, I can always take over the family business. And kind of having that back door, I think it created a sort of an escape for me, which was always, I never had my back against the wall. I always had I always had another sort of option, and I realized that it kind of, I allowed myself to be to get soft. Because even when I ran the family business, it was always just like, well, if I'm not happy doing this, then I could do something else. And I always thought in the back of my mind that I could do something else and something else and something else. And
Yeah, that's true. See, I come from a family where we never have an opportunity. My parents are not entrepreneurs, so there is no family business to fall back on. So I knew that whatever I do, I have to make it successful, or I have to do my best, or I have to figure a way to make money because I ain't going back to, any family business. So I can just imagine how that would be for you. So then what? So we imagine we built a successful business. So then how do we tell our children to have that drive and don't think about falling back on this family business? It's forget it. It's not yours.
I mean, that's something we're always going to have to figure out. But I think for Tyson, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like males and females have different challenges.
Of course.
Growing up, I think that they have different challenges, and I think that for somebody like to grow up to be a provider and the man of the house, if you will, they've got to learn to fall down and pick themselves back up. And for Abby, I'm not like, it's not to say that like, oh, she's going to get married and she's going to marry a rich guy and he's going to take care of her. It's definitely, we're definitely not trying to do that. And I want Abby to grow up to be, independent and hardworking like her mom. But I still think that there is, in society, there are challenges as parents that we have to figure out and work out with them. And I think that, yeah, like Tyson's, I'm definitely tougher on him because I think that he's gonna have different challenges than Abby.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know, back then there's a lot of talk about equality and all of this, and but we do have to realize that men are different than women, and society have different expectations. And at the same time, for me, I kind of realized that before I said, you know what, I'm an independent woman, and if a guy can do this, I can do this. That's just my mentality. But then I've also came to a realization that, you know what, it's good to think like that, but it's okay to kind of you don't have to always be like so strong to put up a front. Like, it's okay to
be vulnerable.
Yeah, it's okay to be vulnerable. And you don't have to compete with, let's say if we're in a position and I don't care for that role, I don't need to compete with you, a man, to show that I, as a woman, I can make it there too. It's kind of like there's a chip on our shoulder in a way, right? And I kind of saying in our family, hey, it's okay. I don't mind. I enjoy cooking. And it's not because that was the role that was given to the woman all these years. So I don't want to do any of that because, I feel like I shouldn't have to. But it's more about I enjoy it. So I don't mind doing the cooking, right? And so it's not so much about, this used to be the woman's role, and so I'm going to defy all of that. I'm going to be a rebel against it. And I kind of learned that in any type of a relationship, there are things like I'm not going to be able to lift things like you do. So I'm going to need your help in that aspect. So I'm going to be okay to do the other, the mental heavy lifting more than the physical heavy lifting.
That's true.
Yeah. But I don't know how we got to that point. But of course, it's all about, I guess, the dynamic of us running a business, being a parent, raising our children, working through our relationship as well too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been doing a lot of talking, so sometimes it's good to have a couple of minutes of just deep breath. This is like us on our road trips when we go and take us on the road trips. We love taking road trips because when we're on our road trips, the kids are sleeping at the back and we're just have these kind of random conversations about like, so what did we think about that? Or what did we think about that? And there's lots of things going on in our life every day, from our business to what's happening with the children. So Why are you laughing?
I was waiting for you to finish that sentence.
Okay.
That thought.
So yeah. So we always have these interesting conversations, which I think it's for me. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of part of how we get to learn more about each other, and we're able to kind of share, right? Kind of like let out our frustrations too, and kind of learn how to share without bottling it up to the point where that's when we share.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true. Okay. It's been fun. Pick up the kids.
Is it time now to pick up the
time.
kids?
It's time.
Oh, okay, that's our signal. Okay, guys, it's been fun chatting with you. Hope you enjoy our conversations. Any feedback, comment, please write them down in the comment sections. We look forward to having more fun conversations. And once again, if there's any specific topic you want us to kind of to cover, whether you're curious about something that we do in our property management business, about relationship, about being a parent, about raising children, we love to talk about just anything. So
let us know.
we'll see you next time.